What is going on, y'all? Robert Sykes, KetoSavage.com. Welcome to the Week 12 recap of the Reverse Diet Vlog series. Man, these titles are getting long. So lots of changes this week. This is going to be the official conclusion of Phase 6. So if you can recall, a couple weeks back, I was going to end Phase 6, I think after 10 weeks, but I decided to do another 2 weeks because I wanted to have an accurate reflection with refeeds and just less irregularity. So that's exactly what I did. Going into the spreadsheet here, week 12 started on February 5th, 2024. My weight was 167.6, and my macro target has been 275 grams of fat, 190 grams of protein, and 20 grams of total carbs for a total of 3,315 calories. However, since this is a phase 6, I've had refeeds structured into the week as well, and I've been a little bit intuitive with the refeeds. Like, it hasn't been like a super strict refeed, just kind of depending on how the week's panned out, how I'm feeling, just listening to my body and gauging that accordingly. So this week I opted to have basically 2 refeeds back to back on Tuesday and Wednesday. Those were here illustrated in orange, 5,138 calories on Tuesday, and then Wednesday was another 5,000 calorie day. Pretty high fat intake on both days, pretty high protein intake on both days. On Saturday, I had a slight refeed. My calories were still beneath 4,000, but on Saturday we were traveling. I went and spent some time with my grandparents, and I had some cured ham, some smoked ham, and I had a little bit more of that, which is why you see, a little bit higher macro numbers, but not so much higher on the calories. But the sodium in that smoked ham was just astronomically high. So my weight jumped up quite a bit. Sunday, I woke up at 171.4. Today, Monday, the next week, filming this, I'm at 169.9. So my weight's a little bit elevated due to that sodium fluctuation. I couldn't really find, this is all locally procured pork, pastured pork, so I couldn't find accurate sodium numbers on it. So I just kind of looked online to find an average. And based off of the amount of pork that I had that day, I probably had about 20,000 milligrams of sodium. So about double what I've been doing lately. So that definitely explains the bump in weight. I could tell that I was holding some fluid retention the following day, so I'm going to let that kind of stabilize, but that's where that weight bump came at the end of the week. But even with these high calories, so if you take all that into consideration, my average for the week has been about 3,923 calories, so almost 4,000 calories on an average, which is pretty high. And my weight has been holding pretty steady. So started the week at 167, got down to 166, and then I pretty much have been holding 166, 167, 168, apart from that high sodium day, throughout the course of the week. So I feel really good at that weight. I look really good at that weight. My energy's been really good. I definitely want to go through the remainder of this reverse going into phase 7 and stay around that 166 to 170 window. I don't really want to get beyond 175 for the next several months, even with the aggressive surplus or the moderately aggressive surplus I plan to do once the reverse is officially done. I like the way I feel. I like the way I look. There's no need to put on excessive weight after the show, because there's a point of diminishing returns with that. Yes, you can push more weight if you've got different leverage points, which is somewhat arbitrary, but there is definitely a point of diminishing returns. There's no reason to gain an extra 50 pounds post-show to try and build more muscle, because you'd have to diet more aggressively and lose that tissue to get the fat off to look competitive on the show day. So I'm going to keep it pretty tight going into this building phase once phase 7 concludes. So that's pretty much what the macros look like, what the weight looks like. Did my cardio on Thursday, 25 minutes at level 15. I really like that. I've continued to like that. I'm probably going to continue that intensity, that duration, and that frequency of 1 day a week throughout the course of the reverse and probably into the building phase as well, because I do think having a baseline cardiovascular standpoint is worthwhile. You don't want to be so fatigued and out of shape cardiovascularly speaking that you can't perform optimally with your resistance training, because then it hinders your ability to put on more muscle. So that's probably what I'm going to do there. I'm still kind of playing around with what I'm going to have with the macros going into phase 7. I'll talk more about that in depth next week, but I'm kind of thinking about just going through a bunch of the meat I have in my freezer. I've been keeping the meals super consistent. Ground beef and lamb has been the majority of what I've consumed this past week, and likely what I'll be consuming going forward with some ground venison in there as well. So that's the spreadsheet. Now, let's talk a little bit about, let me show you some pictures first. So these pictures were taken on Monday, the 5th, at 167.6, and let me pull those up here. These are what those pictures are looking like. Let me just kind of scroll through some of these real quick. So again, at 167.6, I'm liking the way I'm looking. I've got more fullness to my muscles, but I still have that definition. I'm still holding on to that. I mean, I've still got all these cuts in my legs, still see the feathering and the teardrops. My electrolyte, apart from that super high sodium day with the cured ham, my electrolyte intake and water intake has been really, really solid. The equilibrium has been reached. I'm not retaining any excess fluid in my ankles. I'm not really holding any excess fluid anywhere. So it's all in my muscles where it needs to be, not in my subcutaneous layer of skin. Biceps have the fullness there. I'm just really liking how I'm looking. I'm loving how I'm feeling. I think this is a very sustainable level of conditioning for me. So I'm just going to keep rocking this for a bit longer going forward. I kind of missed my back double bicep pose here, though. I didn't really retract my scapula and flare out like I needed to on that one. So I'm just going to blame the photographer, Chip. He took the picture too soon. Sorry, Chip. That's my fault, all right, so there's my side chest pose. Yeah, all these are still looking good. Still have the striations in my glutes there, 12 weeks post-show, so I have no complaints. That is a mean burn that I got, in case you're wondering what that is. That's not a hickey. That is a burn from a very hot cup of keto cocoa that spilled on me. So that is what we got going here from the pictures. There's a hands overhead abdominal thigh. Still got all the obliques visible. So again, feel really good about how these pictures are looking, how my conditioning is holding this far post-show. Another thing of exciting information here. Let's talk about composition scans. So I did the Inbody, and the Inbody on February 5th came in at 5.9%. I also did a caliper test, and the caliper test on Monday, the 5th, came in at 4.64%. Have not gotten a DEXA yet. I had to wait 3 months before my next DEXA based off of my last DEXA, so I might try and get that scheduled in the next week or two or at the conclusion of the reverse. If I had to guess, I'd say I'm probably around 6% body fat right now, which is still too lean to likely maximize muscle building potential in the building phase. So I definitely don't really want to surpass 10%, and I'll probably still put on a little bit more, especially kind of as I transition through phase 7, but I'm probably around 6% body fat right now if I had to guess. I did take some circumference measurements. Let's go through those real quick. So circumference measurements also taken on Monday: neck 14.5, shoulders 47.5, chest 40.5, biceps unflexed 14.25, flexed 15.5, belly button 32, hips 37.25, thighs 23, and calves 14.75. So all of those are progressing nicely as well. Somebody did message on the comments and they wanted more training footage. So I will absolutely put in more training footage. Honestly, the training has been pretty consistent with what I was doing throughout the prep, and it will continue to be consistent until I get through this reverse diet. My focus now is just lifting with more weight, more intensity, more volume as I've got more calories coming in, but I haven't changed my training split. Still doing the full body split. But just for that gentleman that requested more training footage, here's me doing deadlifts. Chip, if you would be so kind as to throw that footage in there with some cool music so that guy can see me ripping up some deadlift. All right, there is that. Now, I also got updated blood work. So I'm excited to dive into this with y'all. Here's my Heads Up Health account dashboard. And I got blood work At the beginning of the prep, which was April 1st, you can see that panel here. I'll probably do like a full-blown comprehensive rundown comparing this with charts and graphs of the entire prep in reverse, but I just want to give you all some visuals here. This was taken in October, so pretty deep into my prep. This was taken pretty much at the conclusion of my prep, or just afterwards. My prep was over mid-November. This is early December. And then this column was just the other day, so pretty much concluding phase 6 into the reverse with this column. So total cholesterol, 258, HDL 122, so HDL has been going up, LDL 122, of course they flagged me for that. Trigs, check this out, my trigs are rock bottom now at 47, so I feel really good about that. Having the high HDL and low trigs, I'm not worried about that LDL cholesterol in the slightest. Let's see here, and then HDL ratio 2.1, so good to go there. We've got some markers here. Everything is moving towards the green as I'm eating more food now. So you can see all these red markers start to disappear. I really wanted to show y'all. So glucose was elevated. This one is 114. I got this blood work done right after doing cardio, so that is why that is elevated. My blood sugar is not normally 114 as a baseline. I've actually got a CGM in right now. I'm trying the new Dexcom CGM. And I also have several glucometers I've been testing out. My baseline blood glucose is normally in the 70s and 80s range. It has been a little bit higher here lately, sometimes in the 90s, because I've been really pushing the protein relative to the fat. Still, fat is higher, obviously, but more protein than normal for me. So that's going to result in a little bit more blood sugar as well. But again, this particular test was taken right after doing cardio, so that's why you see an elevation there. What else do I want to show y'all? Y'all are probably most interested in my hormone markers. So let's scroll down to that. So testosterone, this is interesting. At the start of the prep, it was 537, and then it went to 169, and then it rock bottomed at 86 in October. That was the when I got the test, and that is just abysmally low. Certainly not anything to brag about. And it's pretty much increased significantly since then. So with the once the reverse diet started, it bumped up to 165. Just the other day, it was 297. 297 is technically in the healthy range, but certainly not as high as I would like it. But it is most certainly increasing as I'm eating more food and putting on more body fat, so that number will continue to increase. The free testosterone in October was 8.6, and I actually got this number back as well. It just hadn't been entered in yet. It was 27, I believe. So that number has jumped up quite a bit from the 8.6 as well. And again, I will continue to get routine lab work as I go into the building phase. So we will see how those numbers continue to ramp up as I continue to eat more food and put on a little bit more body fat. Estradiol, FSH, LH, all these numbers are good relative to what they were at the depth of the prep. And everything is moving in the right direction. So I've got no complaints there. The blood work is rocking and rolling. And again, I really want the blood work to illustrate to y'all the significance of going through a healthy reverse diet post-show. If you were to do, I'm 12 weeks post-show now, and these numbers are still not where they need to be, yet so many people trying to do another prep right after getting done with the first prep. As a natural athlete, you just can't expect, especially if you get down as lean as I got, to let those numbers reestablish a healthy baseline prior to going into another prep. And you certainly wouldn't be able to build any more lean tissue to look markedly better the next time you step on stage if you're competing too frequently. So prioritize your health, prioritize your hormones, prioritize your metabolism, and let that body recover before you go into another prep. Build some more muscle. Speaking of metabolism, though, I do want to go back to this spreadsheet here. So I've been pretty amazed at the amount of food that I've been able to consume while maintaining this level of conditioning. Again, this past week, week 12, my average throughout the week was 3,900 calories, so just shy of 4,000 calories. I'm probably going to push that up to just over 4,000 when it's all said and done, and try and maintain that 170-pound weight roughly. Certainly not over 175. If I start going above 175, I'll scale back the intake a little bit. That's my plan. But the fact that I'm eating this much food and have been for this long, and my body is holding on to the conditioning it has, goes to show the beauty of a properly functioning metabolism if you do things right with the reverse diet. The fact that I haven't put on excessive body fat, the fact that I'm not chronically restricting my intake, and I'm able to document all this, hopefully illustrates how you can go through this in a healthy way. If I'm able to maintain a weight of 170 while consuming 4,000 calories in a building phase, putting on more lean tissue, the next time I start a cut, I'll have so much caloric runway from which to taper that I can go through that cut even better than I did this go around. That is how you tap into this fountain of youth. That is how you make this a healthy, sustainable endeavor long term. Having a healthy building phase, a healthy cutting phase, and a healthy transition between those two phases is absolutely paramount. So don't be struck with chronically restricting your intake or overconsumption to the point of just putting on excessive body fat. Do things healthy, track this, document it, be objective, be subjective, and listen to your body and just respond accordingly. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is pretty much all that I wanted to make sure we covered. Let me make sure here. Yes, that is pretty much the whole kit and caboodle. So that concludes phase 6, which is the reverse diet with the inclusion of these ketogenic caloric refeeds. Going forward into week 13, we'll be doing the phase 7 and beyond, which is basically phasing out those refeeds and just having that higher intake at baseline. So I'll be sure to share with you all that I'm doing going forward into phase 7, and I will see y'all next week for phase 7.